Hey everyone, welcome to Bombin AM with Scoops and the Wolf and the Jenn Frank, the Genitar. Genitar,
Mm,
that could be a nickname, right?
yes,
Is that actually a nickname or is that just an internet nickname?
that was when I was 20, my karaoke performance name. It's Pat
Wait,
Benatar.
oh,
Genitar.
really? That's the source of
Ah,
that?
Yes.
Oh, that's so good. That's such a good. Most people don't have like a good story for their nickname. You have a good story for your nickname.
There are too many Jens, Jennies, Jennifers. Genitar.
Oh, that's good. So we should point out to folks in the chat that yes, Jen does not have a webcam. It's not work. She has a webcam. She owns a webcam. She is not inhuman. She owns a webcam. It's just not working.
is
So
that
we
what we're
decided.
judging
Horrible.
humanity by these days? Whether or not they own a fucking webcam? Is
Yeah.
that the
I could
benchmark?
be a Turing machine. You don't know. You don't know. That way I can prove. I want to take a photograph for you two with like today's newspaper.
Yeah,
An arrow.
just exactly.
It's me. I hired this woman.
I'm just imagining you as like a sentient operating system now at this point. Like the her thing has completely ruined my ability to just listen to women talk without seeing them at the same
No,
time.
no. I talk. Uma Thurman sits here. That's how it works.
Okay, all right.
It was a
See,
movie.
You've given this a lot of thought too. I like it. I like that this isn't just. This could be plausible. I believe that you would get up to something like this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So for folks that maybe don't know, Jen, her and I, friends going way back when you won a contest through OneUp.com.
A blogging contest.
You won a
Blog
blogging
E3.
contest.
Yeah. And we
She
were
was-
both in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
You were a kid. You were
I
a
was really
babe
young.
in swaddling. Although I don't want to diminish your career. You had as the youngest person I knew, you had the longest video game journalism career of anyone I knew. So
That's true.
yeah,
That's true. I'll take that.
yeah.
But yeah, we met when I was like, let's see. So you would have won that. That was, oh man, that was the beginnings of One Up. So I was still in college, so I had to have been. So I was probably 20.
I was 22, almost 23.
Okay, yeah. So I was probably 20. But yeah, so you want. So can you what was the blogging contest about? And what you won was the ability to come out and cover E3 as like an official blogger for One Up. But what did you actually write? Do you remember?
Oh no, I think it was like before we were really doing top 10 lists. It was a top 10 reasons you should
Okay.
bring me, and I listed my hygiene as one reason. I remember, which seems just disingenuous now,
Mm.
but I promised to have minty, fresh breath they would remember for minutes to come, I think was my selling point.
Did you manage to deliver on that promise?
I did. I brought Tic Tacs and bubble gum.
And so
Minty.
I remember like part of what you did then was like basically just walk around the show and just you didn't have like a very. It's not like it was One Up like, hey, you need to write 5 blog posts, or was it kind of, hey, you're here, just I don't know, go do something.
It was more the latter. I was given some menial roles. I remember I helped out Kimmy and Who's It? What's It?
She's still at Ubisoft, maybe.
I think.
Last I
And
heard.
Ray, the PR guy. That was when I met Ray.
Mhm.
Not Serrano. Letta.
Yep.
Oh, whoa. Blast from the past. This is hard. I can't believe I just pulled that name out of the air.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Whew,
This is where my
I
career
had
has
no
gone.
idea.
I like to embarrass the 7, 8-year-old memories of my friends.
No, it was a really positive experience. It was my first experience with having huge factions of the internet angry at me, so a good learning experience. And I remember why. It was because I did a photo blog with every car that was parked at E3, not in the parking lots, but like promo cars, like promotional.
Were you in all the photos?
No.
So it was just
no.
photos of the cars.
I just walked around taking photos of cars. I did not know what to do with myself. It was horrible, but not horrible. I remember the only moment I was starstruck that year was when I saw Sheni Jardin of Boing Boing walk by, and she's like 12 feet tall. She is amazing. She is an Amazon. No, that was a really fun experience, though. That was the first time I ever sent texts from my cell phone. I was walking across the E3 floor, and I was like, if only there were a way I could use my cell phone without actually talking into it. God, it's so loud here. And I was like, oh, I have the ability to SMS. And that's how I became the cell phone addict that I am now. Just hammering messages into my flip phone.
That's true. That's true. Hey, you can make a career out of that. Why not?
It's what I did. No, and I did. I parlayed that experience into. It was really nice. I was asked if I would have any interest writing reviews for EGM, and that's how I got my foot in the door, as it were. So
you got your foot in there. You worked at 1UP for a couple of years. I managed to work there for 9 months before
right.
getting out of there.
And our
not
time
even a full
overlapped.
Year.
Yeah,
our time
right.
overlapped for a brief amount of time. And then from there, you went and you were doing a lot of writing. I think that's probably what a lot of people know you for now is you become a bit of a noted essayist. Is that a term? Is that
it is? I thank you. That's nice. Yeah, it's nice that after I was not known for my writing during my 1UP days, but afterward, yeah.
Yes, you've written for Kill Screen. You write a lot for Unwinnable these days, and people that don't even follow your writing work may actually just know you or not know you, as the case may be, as the voice of Super Hexagon.
That's right.
You are the damning voice that embarrasses us all at being terrible at that game on a regular basis.
That is correct. And no, the highlight of all that was what's his name? The creator of Invader Zim. Tweeted that if he ever met me, he would punch me in the throat.
Damn.
I know, and I take that as like a huge career highlight. So I don't know if it gets any better than that.
Jonan Vasquez, that's his name.
That is his name. Were you Googling?
Yes.
I'm glad you did. That is who I'm shit talking. Not really.
I'm literally
no.
the worst with names, so I have to Google everything.
I'm glad for cell phones. Just Googling people while you talk to them. I do that. At dinner, you don't remember who you're sitting at. Yeah, okay.
Hey, look. When I'm very good with faces, very bad with names. Like I can pick up conversations and like know that I can recall things we've talked about, but I just won't remember their names. To the point that when I first started working out of the Cards Against Humanity office. In the last couple of weeks, I had in like my notes that I have for work, I had like arrows going out from a page on my desk so that I would know who was sitting in front of me and to the left of me and behind me.
Darling.
And once I did that for a day, so like someone would like look at me to say something, I'm like, oh, that's Claire. I got it. And now then I threw it away because I wanted no evidence that that actually existed.
Yes,
even though I just
it.
publicly announced it on a show that I'm sure none of those people watch, so I'm probably okay.
That is a great office space, by the way. I am incredibly jealous. I was really sad to move away from Chicago, and I feel like I left Chicago immediately before this sort of little explosion that we're so fortunate to have had, where everybody was already there, making and doing kind of their thing, but I feel like there's a lot more coordination, if not collaboration now. And I'm so resentful and envious because I feel like I missed all that. So
Chicago is one of those cities that I think like a lot of other cities has just more going on than people realize, and it's just I think partially led by folks like Brandon Boyer down in Austin is finding ways to give your city its own identity that's already there. It's just you kind of have to brand it and create awareness for that stuff. And then,
Well,
hopefully that convinces other folks to come out and
Brandon
wanna watch
himself was up in Chicago up
Right? No,
until
I
like
gave him
yeah,
I gave
couple
him a
years
ride
ago.
to the L Stop after a video game concert years and years and years ago,
Wow.
which is the
Yeah.
first time we had met in person.
Yeah, I didn't realize he'd ever lived there until he was standing in my apartment in San Francisco, pointed at a Roto Fuji sticker on my refrigerator, and he said to me accusatorily, "Why do you have that?" And I just cracked. Well, I used to work there, and I was like, "Because I worked there." And he said, "No, you didn't." It was fantastic. And I was like, "Did you live in Chicago?" Yes, that's how I found out. And when I met him, he had just moved to Austin, and I was just like, "Why would you leave Chicago? It's the best city on earth," and I stand by that. No, it's hard to be collaborative or coordinate events because it's miserable 11 months out of the year in Chicago. People.
It is, and it's particularly miserable right now. It's been a bad winter. But one thing I got to get to before, because it'll slip my mind, because
Oh,
I don't think about wrestling that often. But Alex,
Okay. Yes.
it kind of came up to my head right now, and I had to just capitalize it while it was there. But this was a big
Okay.
weekend for wrestling, wasn't it?
It was. It was, in fact.
How was that? Was it a good big weekend for wrestling, or was it just a big weekend for wrestling?
It started out as just a big weekend for wrestling, and then it did not turn into such a good big weekend for wrestling, unfortunately.
Why? Why was it? Was it terrible, or was it just disappointing?
Okay, so here's the thing. You have to start this off, you have to realize that wrestling fans are perhaps the most easily abusable of all entertainment fans out there.
You're like Sonic the Hedgehog fans. Is that, like,
They
a
are
good
the Sonic the
analogy?
Hedgehog fans of sweaty man grappling.
Great. Put it on
and
your resume.
WWE being the only company that really exists in America at this point, they're kind of the only real major product to watch. That whatever else is out there is generally pretty terrible, so or hard to find. So this weekend was the Royal Rumble, which is the second biggest pay-per-view they do every year. It's arguably the most fun show they do every year because it literally is just about 30 dudes in a ring trying to toss each other over the top rope, and it's ridiculous, but it's usually pretty fun. This year, it opened really well, and then the rest of the show kind of just devolved into kind of hot garbage.
Okay.
The match was won by a guy named Dave Bautista, who is somewhat of an actor now after having
like
left the WWE
legitimately?
back. What's that?
Like legitimately?
Yes, he was in the last Riddick movie. He was in a couple of things before that. He's in that Guardians of the Galaxy movie that's coming out
Oh, he's
in
that
August.
guy. He's that guy.
Yeah.
Okay. He's like, we need a big beefy dude that can at least say a line.
Yeah,
You
and
got
he's
it.
I mean, he's Ursat's Rock. I mean, he's not great, but he is a big burly dude who will say the things that you tell him to say, and he's good enough at it. And he used to be a wrestler, but he came back just for this, and then is going to be with the company, I guess, for like a year, and he won the match, and nobody is happy really that he is back or that he is doing any of this stuff. He is kind of there seemingly at the expense of other people. And last night the crowd was really good. They were super into it. They were excited. They were cheering along with everything. And then as soon as it started going the way that it eventually went, you could see the crowd just turn on a dime. Like all the cheering and happy chanting and everything just went to people just abjectly booing everything.
Wow. Does that normally
hostile
happen?
in there.
When like people don't like the narrative twist that has been written for like this stuff, like do people usually turn on it, or are the writers usually at least like knowing of what people want to see and they just kind of give people that?
That's the thing. You would think they would just kind of go with what the people want to see, but a lot of this stuff is planned out pretty well ahead of time, or in some cases is rushed into kind of a new direction when something isn't working. It's usually only in panic mode when they do that. In this case, there is a guy in the league, I guess, who is very, very popular right now. He's the one who leads all those yes chants that college football programs and other places are doing or emulating now. And he was not even in the match. As soon as the number 30 guy came in and everyone realized he wasn't even in the match, they just started booing everything. Like it wasn't even it had nothing to do with the actual result. Like once the result happened, the crowd just started, completely just shouting it down everything. But as soon as they realized that he wasn't even in the match, they started actively just booing the match. Not even the result, but just everything that was happening in it.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's great.
It was nuts. I had not seen a crowd turn on a show like that in a very long time. It was kind of insane to watch.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. And you also put up a...
Did you catch the Grammys last night?
Uh-huh.
Did not watch those.
Macklemore, right?
I was watching wrestling. I don't watch the Grammys. I'm sorry.
I'm teasing you. I'm just joshing you.
And then you also put up a video this weekend, right? You put up an encyclopedia about Bastica.
Yes, I did. I threw up a thing for WWF Royal Rumble for the Super Nintendo and Genesis, which it was a game that I spent way more time playing than I probably should have, considering a lot of those games are not actually that good when you kind of come back and revisit them, and that game is maybe not really any exception to that rule.
So it's terrible. It
was a fun multiplayer game when I was 12. That is how I'm going to frame that whole thing. It was really fun to play with friends. It was like a lot of games from that time, not the sort of thing you would ever want to play against the computer because it was really bad.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
it's up on the site now.
It is up on the site. Let's talk about maybe some video games. Jen, are you playing anything right now? Are you still a video gamer? Is that still on your resume?
I mean, I think so. Oh my god.
What kind of video games have you been playing, Jen?
Let's see. Well, last night I was part of the Castle Doctrine alpha, so right. I dutifully installed it into my Steam. So I'm gonna get back into that, fresh-faced, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I don't know. I'm killing time.
Have you played that before?
Yes. Yes.
That has been a
hot topic.
Not an over exaggeration to say a source of constant controversy and discussion for all sorts of reasons. Most recently to how Jason Rohr believes sales affect the long tail and the quality of players that you get, to class and gender issues about the very design of the game. But I'm curious if what do you think of the game itself? Because I feel like sometimes that obviously gets lost in a lot of these really interesting and definitely discussions that should be happening. But like, is the game itself like worth all of this talk that's happening about it?
I mean, yes and no.
Okay.
Ideologically, I feel very simpatico with Mr. Rohr. I grew up in a part of South Texas that definitely has the same survivalist mentality. Like, I grew up embedded in that. And I find it weird. And I think he finds it weird. I also am a first-time homeowner, and so I have a lot of the same sort of panic or paranoia, and I don't think that's healthy, and I don't want to have that kind of paranoia associated with my home. Well, but I sent him an email, and I described to him when I would leave Chicago for a long period of time, anytime I would get back to my Chicago apartment, I would check it, like, neurotically. I would grab my trusty Victorinox chef's knife, and stalk my own apartment, which I think is kind of over the top. But as a woman living alone in a big city, and maybe I would leave for 6 months because my parents were having health problems, I would come back home for the first time in 6 months and just, like, stalk around my own apartment. Like, that's kind of crazy behavior. Kind of not, because the stakes are very high.
They are, because what if there is the guy?
Yeah, actually, the stakes are high. He's been there for 6 months. Yeah,
he's been following your Twitter account, and he knows what's going on.
Right, exactly. And so I would have that kind of paranoia. But really, yeah, the stakes are very high, so I'm gonna be kind to myself. But that really is sort of like neurotic behavior.
I think everyone, like I remember when Katie and I first moved in together, I suddenly felt a certain neuroses that I had never felt about stuff like that before. I had way less concern about my own well-being till suddenly I had someone else in the apartment as well, and then you get a dog, and then all of a sudden, you know, I understand, you know, I think as you say, some of the craziness that you try and be self-aware of, but you know, nonetheless, you know.
And I think gender in that game is really important. Like, people have pointed out that you may only play as a male character, maybe sort of a king of the castle.
I don't know if that was like a little bit of a subconscious thing there where you said you manly play.
Did I say manly?
You did say manly.
I'm not sure. You mainly?
Mainly was what you were going for. I got that. I just thought that was a funny little
manlily play as the fellow of the king of the castle. So in such a way though that the wife and kids who each play through, you know, they get new names, but the sprites stay the same. So it's really sort of nasty. But I think the gender roles there are super important, and it's taken a lot of heat for having, you know, the family dog and the kids all essentially being props. They're just one more kind of possession in the house. But I think it's hinting at something. Well, I've taken a little bit of heat for I would not take Jason to task for that game. I think it's really fascinating. I know that he based it on his father's own tendencies toward just that interest in that bunker survivalist attitude, which again is super prevalent in the kind of kookily libertarian part of the U.S. that I live in.
Well, I was just going to ask it real quick. I mean, I haven't played it personally, and I've only read some of the reactions toward it, but the impression I got was not necessarily that he was trying to, in any way, highlight or prop up that sort of mentality, but he was trying to portray a certain, you know, like that kind of possessiveness, because it has traditionally been framed in that way, you know, in a lot of kind of the media and other things that kind of portray this sort of, you know, mentality where it is like the man, the head of the household, the patriarch, that is sort of takes this possessive mentality about, you know, his wife, his children, his dog, everything.
Definitely. And yeah, that's exactly why I like it, is because it sort of takes this patriarchal ideal, if you will, to its most grotesque extreme, but it also makes a game out of it. So is it making light of it? Like, and I understand certain criticisms. I think it's really good that this game exists and plays out the way it does, because it does invite a lot of questions and criticism. And I really like the game for a lot of reasons, but if only for the fact that it does invite so much conversation and dialogue. So, and I think that's really positive. What's the last game that did that? So.
Well, and I think it's interesting. We're seeing a couple of games that operate similarly. I think Prison Architect is another game that is playing in a similar space, in the sense of, you know, it's a game, and if you only think about it as a game and a series of game systems that you are, you know, trying to win or exploit, you know, it's possible to, you know, simply enjoy it on that level for sort of, you know, accomplishing a task or winning in that traditional sense. But, you know, I couldn't play Prison Architect without feeling deeply uncomfortable with the idea that I am min-maxing efficiency of a prison system that is, you know, riddled with deep problems in the U.S. Especially, and the idea that if you just think about the fact that you're playing a prison simulation, like, there's a lot that's embedded in the design and the reflection of what those people think about the U.S. prison system, in even the tools they give you in order to create your own layout. And there was actually a great critique of that game on Kotaku a couple of weeks back by I'm not going to be able to pronounce the designer's name properly. He goes Mole Industria. Right?
Sure,
yes.
sure.
Yeah, so I don't know.
I think that's right.
Paolo Pedersini. I probably just completely butchered that, but that's close enough. And anyway, he did this incredibly sort of scathing but also complimentary critique of Prison Architect, in which he tried to break down, some of the problems of the U.S. prison system, how those are embedded into the design of Prison Architect, or pointing out the things that it really needs to, reflect or have incorporated into the design of the game in order for it to be sort of the simulation that it's portraying itself to be.
That's really cool.
And it seems like Castle Doctrine is playing in a similar space there of dealing with very serious subjects and then applying game system and game logic to them. But then once you've done that, I think it's okay if you just want to play the game and not consider that. That's absolutely your choice. But I find it very difficult to play these types of games and separate the two,
right.
And especially with Castle Doctrine, where you have Jason putting himself right in the front of this and explaining his personal feelings and personal
in the crosshairs, if you will,
in experiences. Yeah, like with Prison Architect, it's it's a game being made by two people, but those guys aren't really putting themselves out there and their opinions of the prison system. That stuff's sort of just embedded in the game design. I think the discussion on Castle Doctrine would be very different if Castle Doctrine was only sort of speaking for itself as opposed to knowing and having a personal relationship with the designer as a result of what they've shared about what's informed that experience.
I mean, and again, or not again, because I didn't say this earlier, but here, but I think I've said it elsewhere. Jason doesn't have to explain his game, and he may even injure himself a little bit by explaining the idea behind Castle Doctrine as much as he has, because I think the game does stand on its own. Still, I think he reassures his players that he's very thoughtful and careful about what he has created. So I do appreciate him for engaging with his audience in the way that he has, but I think the game actually does fine without him interjecting, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I mean, with the way conversations tend to go about games these days, I feel like if you aren't willing to kind of speak up for your concept and your game on your own, there are more than enough people that are willing to frame that conversation for you.
Right, you're right,
in potentially very dangerous ways.
He could be imperiously silent, and I'm glad that he isn't. And I do think that he has laid off of conversation just enough to kind of let people have their own dialogues and go their own way, so to speak, with interpretations of what he's created, what he's produced.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Jonathan Blow where he's trying to answer every single comment thread.
Right. So no, I think that's a good point, Alex. And I mean, Jason has always been one of the best in terms of most careful designers, and I really like his work a lot. I don't think I need to apologize for that. So,
and if nothing else, he's exceptionally articulate about his viewpoint, even if you absolutely disagree with even the premise of what he's arguing.
What's nice to disagree with? Like, that's the other thing about a good video game is I sometimes I'm baffled because what's wrong with being deeply uncomfortable with an experience that that maybe would be too much of an abstraction otherwise. Like video games frame things, even ugly things, philosophies, and makes them accessible for a wide range of players. Like, is it fun? Like, the game is also kind of fun. It's kind of cheeky or sinister fun, but if you take even a moment to think about it, it's framing just a lot of really nasty stuff that I think is prevalent in the United States that we don't discuss, like all of that stand your ground stuff. I think it's just ugly, nasty business, and here's a video game about it. It's really kind of an achievement. It's a feat.
Well, and I think that's something that games more than other mediums can engage with in a way that highlights what's so great about video games is the interactive nature of it that can if a game has interesting game systems, you are then possibly going to interact with an ideology that, if you were to have just read about, would make you feel deeply uncomfortable. You would, you would disagree with it. But if it's a set of interesting game systems, it allows you, maybe empathy is the wrong term, or maybe it is the right term, but it allows you to suddenly become potentially more empathetic to a viewpoint that you would otherwise find horrifying, because you are engaging with it on a level that is much deeper than just reading about it. You are actually interacting with the ideology in a fashion that is not possible in movies or books or any other format. And I think that's what makes games dealing with uncomfortable subjects so potentially interesting going forward, because it just allows you to maybe understand it on a level and still maybe disagree with it, even more than you did before, but to have a level of interaction with it that isn't possible anywhere else.
But can that be dangerous, Patrick?
Yeah, probably. Probably super dangerous.
Do we want kids getting this comfortable with guns? I'm just kidding. Actually, I'm just kidding. What I was doing there. No, I agree with you. And I think we're not there yet. I think people have written some about, like, news games. Literally the idea of ripped from the headlines, like making issues of the day more accessible to the average player and taking them from being this total dehumanized abstraction and bringing them into a space where they make some sort of sense to a player. But I don't think news games are there yet. I think a game
not until
like
Dick Wolf gets into the video game industry.
Oh yeah, boom boom. 5:30 p.m. Cafe. But
yeah. So anyway, like it's like, are you having fun with the Castle Doctrine at all? Like, would you recommend people? Check it out?
I just reinstalled it. I mean, anything that gets you outside of your comfort zone, I think, is a good thing. So that's one thing I'm playing right now.
Interesting. Alex, did you have a chance to play anything this weekend?
Not very much.
You played with watching wrestling?
Yeah, I watched wrestling. I spent way too much time trying to get that video together because my video output situation here is kind of hot garbage. And then I also went to a Nicolas Cage marathon at the Alamo Draft House in Yonkers on Saturday.
I forgot about that.
Of course you did. I'm actually astonished. I've never seen or met Alex before. I thought you looked like Nicolas Cage, man.
Other than the bug eyes, we don't really have very much in common.
Aww.
So no, yeah, I've had more than my share of people come to me like, I've known that you don't look like Nicolas Cage, yet when I met you, when I thought I was going to, I still expected you to look like Nicolas Cage.
A little bit. I hate to be like the umpteenth person then to tell you that, but
no, it's fine.
A little bit. Okay.
It is my fault. I am the one who has brought this on myself. So you have nothing to worry about. I did this to myself, and at a certain point, I just kind of let go. It was never. I maybe used to get a little annoyed about it, but at this point, I'm just like, no, I did this. I made this happen. So this is my fault.
Respect.
But yeah, so I went to that on Saturday. It was 4 movies, which they did not announce ahead of time. The 4 movies ended up being in this order: Con Air, Red Rock West, Vampire's Kiss, and Face Off.
What's Red Rock West?
Red Rock West is this very little seen sort of Western noir movie that he made in the very early 90s.
Wait, he made?
Well, no, he was the lead actor in.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Don
wait,
was
when
the
did you get into
director.
writing and directing?
No. But it was. So yeah, it took place in like Wyoming. He was like this, drifter type who ends up getting mixed up with a couple that's trying to kill each other, played by the most 90s couple you can imagine in J.T. Walsh and Lara Flynn Boyle. And Dennis Hopper is also in it as a crazy assassin, hired killer. And it won a bunch of awards at Cannes, and then it never got bought. So HBO bought it and ran it for like 2 weekends in like 1992 or 3, and then nobody saw it again until some theater owner in San Francisco bought the movie and then toured around with it in like '94 and made like a shit ton of money apparently because everyone wanted to go see this movie that no studio wanted to bother releasing. So there are only like a limited number of prints of it even in existence, and I guess they were able to get a hold of one, which is why they showed it. It's not a bad movie. It's just a weird pick sandwiched in between Con Air and Vampire's Kiss, which are like much more definitively Nicolas Cage movies, whereas that one is much more Dennis Hopper being super weird while Nicolas Cage just occasionally yells things.
I'm actually surprised that they elected to go so action movie heavy. Like,
well, it's part of tough guy cinema was the thing.
Oh, well, there you are. I don't know if you've ever. I pride myself. I honestly believe that I uncovered this gem for the rest of the internet because I found it during my brief period when I was not doing video game writing. I was a celebrity gossip blogger.
Oh, that's awesome.
And which is why I watch the Grammys every year. I watch it like it's my job because it used to be. So I found this amazing interview with Nicolas Cage. It's a web chat interview with Empire Online, British publication.
I remember Empire.
And if you search for like Empire Nick Cage web chat, it is the most amazing thing in the world. And one reader of Empire asks Nicolas Cage for his recommendation for an evening of Nick Cage movies. And he's a weird. He's like, oh, Face Off, Bad Lieutenant. He does like a really weird juxtaposition of movies, I guess, because he wants the reader to have a night of his full range.
Sure.
And when you think about his oeuvre, this is really like the greatest actor in the world. He's like the best actor in the world when you consider like Bad Lieutenant, Raising Arizona. There are a lot of questions because he's there to promote Skullface, superhero.
Oh, Ghost Rider.
What do you say?
Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider. Sorry, I was like,
Ghost Rider.
Yes,
Yeah, he's in the reboot of Ghost Rider.
Inside a Ghost Rider.
Man, they should reboot
right
Ghost Rider.
behind you, Lacey. He is so amazing when he talks about how the actor in like these villages was the shaman of the village.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, and how when he was portraying Ghost Rider, he wore like voodoo totems under his leather jacket, and
you've seen the pictures from Ghost Rider 2, right? Of him wearing like the skull face paint and like the weird like hair dreads.
He discusses that. Yeah.
Yeah.
He wanted to be like this horrifying shaman medicine man on set and intimidate the living fuck out of. Can I say fuck here?
Oh, by all means.
Living fuck. The living fuck. If that helps, out of all of his coworkers, really, which is like not a good working environment for everybody else. But no, that's horrifying. And he is such a mad genius.
Yeah.
Committed to his art. Like I have nothing but the highest respect for. I think he is, out there cashing paychecks, but I do think he's just wild enough to take everything he does seriously as well. And oh man, I gotta. Had tip of the hat to that because he is a kook. He is a kook.
The term I had coined and other friends of mine had coined previously was that he is our greatest living actor. And that might sound like an ironic statement. It is meant with the utmost respect and honesty toward what that man does.
Philip Seymour Hoffman. At a time, Jeremy Davies. I thought until he got a little too Vincent D'Onofrio method neurotic.
Sure.
But no, I go back and forth on this. Who is our greatest living actor? Possibly Charlize Theron or Samantha Morton are way up there. But for classic, reborn, old Hollywood, maybe George Clooney, but I kind of skew Nick Cage. Like his decisions are interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I don't always agree with them, he's really just the most. I really appreciate that a lot about you, Alex, that you your commitment to Nick Cage, because he really is one of the most fascinating actors. So there you are. I don't know why I said it like that. I was
It was a
trying
very
to think.
Cage-like. It was a very Cage-like delivery.
Cagey.
Just sort of,
It was
you know,
cagey.
it just kind of, it just came from the emotional place. You know, you don't know
Right.
where it's coming from.
Well, I would maker, doer, thinker, kook, and I was like, well, I should just call him what he is, which is an actor. So I was settling on it as I said it. Actor. They're easing into it, letting myself accept him as an actor. That's what that was.
This best Cage movie poll, whoever put this up here, I don't approve of it one bit because.
What are you looking at? I haven't been looking at anything.
Someone just threw this into the chat.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not looking. I can't look. What's the best movie? Raising Arizona.
Right now, Raising Arizona is winning, which, I mean, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that. But,
no, that's good.
Vampire's Kiss is not even on there, and I think we all know that is his masterpiece.
Oh,
no National Treasure 2, just the first National Treasure. I can't tell if this is a limitation of who made the poll or a limitation of our poll system or the.
Raising Arizona.
This show has gone off the rails.
Vegas.
It went off the rails a while ago, Patrick.
Yep.
I've just been kind of rolling along with it.
Look, this.
Happy
no one
to.
controls what we do on this show. No one in San Francisco is even watching this show. We could be airing pornography, and I don't think Jeff would notice.
Jeff actually swears that he watches our show sometimes. I don't believe him, but he swears.
Remember Me? I just played through. I announced very publicly on, I think, New Year's Eve that is my game of the year.
No shit.
Wow.
No shit.
Well, why? Explain.
Why is that your game of the year?
They no,
Best
they
explanation I've heard yet.
Right. They so that team of people, I think, created just the greatest cyberpunk universe I think I've seen in at least the last 10 years. It's a fine place to not quite inhabit since it's such a set. But it could have been such an amazing point-and-click adventure game if they hadn't tried to graft on so much. The platforming is a shit stain. Mm-hmm. People are exactly divided on the fighting. Ben Kuchera said that he loves the fighting in Remember Me, which
I loved it in theory. Like when I first started engaging with it, and the idea of creating your own combos. It sounds like it should be like it on paper. It sounds great, and then it's just so limited in what you can actually do with it in terms of practical application. And it's an idea that you feel like could make a lot of sense in a sequel if they could get another crack at it. But it was something I enjoyed more in theory than in practice.
That game,
really
did you play it all the way through?
No, I've been meaning to, it's one of those games that's on my
okay.
I'd like to go back to it list, but Alex has played it.
Please do. I was talking on Twitter recently, so I love Nealon. I assume that's how it's pronounced in the English one. We played it in French because we're pretentious. No, because everyone I spoke to said to play it in French. It really helps the writing, and it does. It makes the writing sound very romantic.
I went back and played a couple of the first chapters with the French dialogue on, and I agree. Yes, the voice acting is considerably better.
Right.
Better, or you just don't know the difference, which is the same for.
It's a more emotive. It seems like the actors seem more into it, I think, than the English actors were.
Nealon is an interesting character. What was it? So I was in a conversation on Twitter where it was pointed out that Nealon is. My friend Shelly pointed out. Big Shell Event, she's called on Twitter, pointed out that. Nealon is very forcefully mixed race. Mm-hmm. So forcefully, like they show you her parents. Like they go out of their way to show you her parents. So it's interesting how much the game smacks her identity over your head. But I pointed out that they get away from a lot of the narrative struggles that would come out of that by making her an amnesiac in the future, which is really like a fantastic way to avoid a lot of narrative explanation. Oh, well, she doesn't remember her parents, and she lives in the future. Like, so,
Right.
so that's a great way to avoid saying anything, potentially political. But I pointed out in the same conversation, they deliberately cloak the person she talks to through the entire game, Edge.
Yes.
And his identity ambiguity actually comes to bear on the plot in a really interesting way. And I think her identity, too, does come to bear once you do meet her parents and find out what they do for a living and how her family is fractured.
There's two. I'm split on that because for one thing, I really do like. I liked the way they sort of meted out the information about her family and like where she comes from and that stuff.
It's paced really well.
I wanted the memory remixing stuff to be better because as it is, it's just kind of like just trying to get the right button presses at the right timing to do kind of, like there's really only one way it can kind of go. So it's not really that interesting mechanically, but I thought,
I recommend...
The morality of it was interesting, but the actual mechanics of it were not.
I recommend doing the memory remixes with a room full of people because it turns into one of those very good adventure game shouting matches where everybody has a different idea they want to test against the game and see if it's right. And so I think the memory remix sections have the same pitfalls that any adventure game would have, but they're also the most interesting parts of the game.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Us playing solo, they were less interesting to me.
You need people shouting at you, is what
clearly.
You need. Yeah.
I need that in my life on a regular basis anyway. It's the only way I can feel anything.
That's most of this morning show is me just screaming at Alex until my wife comes in and just unplugs the computer. And then, the show's over.
No, but that game is just an example of so many things that could be so good, including the memory remixing stuff. And it's just, I love that just anybody playing it can see all of the things that they appreciate and would do differently. It turns everybody into a video game designer, like a hobbyist video game designer.
That is absolutely a game I could, there's an alternate universe version of that game that is my favorite game of 2013. It's just that's not the version that came out in the universe that I happen to occupy.
And that's why that's enough for me. Like, there's so much potential there. I'm just like, look at this game that could be so good. At the time, when I first played it, I called it 7 out of 10 that everybody should play. And I still stand by that. I think 7 is reaching high. I think some people could give it a 6, and I would agree with 6. I would not agree with 5. I would not agree with 8.
I gave it. I gave it our 3 stars, so that's a 6, I guess, according to the busted ass Metacritic scale. So there you go.
There you are.
If I could have given it 3.5 stars, I might have, but we don't have that level of flexibility here.
Well, and like you said, like it has all of these fundamentals just like almost down pat. Can you afford that half star for a game that literally gets no fundamental game mechanic exactly right on? Like it's weird in its badness. Like it really does almost hit everything and get everything wrong. It's like seeing a oh boy, I shouldn't say this. I'm gonna piss somebody off. It's like seeing a high school band play a beautiful original piece of music.
Sure. Okay. Yes, I see what you're saying.
It's all discordant and it's all tinny, but in your mind's ear, you can hear what the composition was supposed to sound like, even though you're not familiar with the piece of music.
I like that comparison.
We've
all had that.
And I don't mean to call the studio a freaking high school band, but it like, this is a fantastic piece of music these people are trying to play. It really sounds terrible. Like that's what it is for me.
Okay. It's that is a perspective I had not considered for that game. But it does make me want a sequel real bad all of a sudden. So I'll give you that. You've at least made me suddenly renewed my interest in the idea of more Remember Me.
I would love to inhabit that space that they created a second time. Like, I think they accomplished so much with the first. I'm gunning for a sequel. So yeah.
I like Ada Tree's comment in the chat, which he says, "It's like a cute puppy. You can't be too angry at it, even as it pees all over your stuff."
I mean, I don't want to call it a finger paint that you leave on your refrigerator because your kid did it. Like, it's not.
It's better than that.
It's not something that you don't criticize because your kid made it. Like, that's almost
that
rude,
weird group of French people is not my child. I don't need to, I don't have to lavish praise on them just because
exactly.
I don't have that attachment to them.
Right. But it is a very cute puppy, isn't it? I do. Yeah, that's good.
It's a pretty cute dog. It's a pretty cute dog. Pretty cute French dog.
Could grow up into a great dog.
Yeah, it just needs a little training.
The best dog. Yeah. Our greatest living dog.
Exactly. Wow. Oh my God.
Does Nick Cage have a dog? Like, what would he name his dog?
So probably something related to Superman.
Vegas. Elvis. He would name his dog Elvis.
Possibly Elvis or Kal-El.
Yes, Kal-El.
He named his child Kal-El. So.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Patrick, what have you been playing? Nobody asked you.
I was gone all weekend. I didn't play. I played a little bit of Republic. I played a little bit of Republic on my iPad, which seems interesting, but not
what
deep
is
enough
that?
to.
Republic.
It's Ryan. Yeah, Republic. If you want to pronounce it with the way it has an accent, but everyone in the game calls it Republic. It's Ryan Payton, the ex Consumer Productions, briefly of Halo 4. Then kickstarted his game. It's basically it tries to make a big budget stealth game on an iPad with touch controls. So the way that game would work or not work is if you're actually able to get Hope, who's the main character, around the environment to your satisfaction, because you don't have direct control over her. And I find that works in the 30 minutes I played pretty well, but not super great, because 2 different times she would kind of get confused at the corner that she's in, and she would just stand up and then walk to another part of the wall, even though I was not directing her to do that. But when it does work, it works just enough that I really want to keep playing and see more of how it plays out. And the fact that one of the game's collectibles are makeshift Atari 2600 cartridges.
Hey.
That you pickpocket off of the characters in the game, and all of the cartridges are different popular or interesting games in the App Store.
And
Super
then
in the
has a cartridge in that game.
Yeah, the first one I came across was
screenshot.
Infinity Blade, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was Super Hexagon and probably games like Sword and Sorcery. But it also has a link in your inventory to the App Store for you to go buy it, which it breaks the atmosphere a little bit, but I thought was kind of a cool way.
No, that's like a sweet endorsement directly from the developer.
Yeah, so I thought that was a neat way to kind of pimp some of the games, that because it's like people like their collectibles, and that's another reason to explore the pickpocket mechanic that the game has, rather than just taking everyone out. But so I'm looking into that. I want to play more of it, but I ended up mostly just drinking with my brother this weekend, so I was never in a position to do much of gameplay.
How's the Rockstar life?
No more Rockstar life. No more Rockstar life. He's settling down. He's getting an apartment in Chicago, so he's going to school for business. So he's doing all right. But he's seen more of the world than I will ever see.
I left out the game that I actually did play this weekend, and that is Red Shirt.
Oh yeah, how is that? I've heard a lot of interesting things about that game.
It is point blank. It is fantastic. It is, a lot of people compare it to Dave Eggers' The Circle in a good way, as in it's way better.
Because I've heard a lot of mixed things about that book.
It's way better than The Circle.
Okay.
I read The Circle. I plan to write a review of The Circle. I have a half-written review of The Circle. You know what? Just don't even bother with all of that. Play Red Shirt.
Okay.
It is fantastic. It is funny. It is sinister. It is one of the nastiest pieces of work I have ever played.
Ooh.
It is fantastic.
Can you set up a little
Tell
bit
me more.
about what it actually is for?
Yeah,
folks?
sure. You work on a spaceship, but as in The Circle, one of the huge demands of your job is to dedicate a certain amount of time each day to your Spacebook profile.
Okay.
To work your ranks, the goal, the end game, is to get yourself off of whatever spaceship you're working on, because it's probably going to blow up in 160 days. You need a ticket off that joint. So with your Spacebook, the idea of the game is to finesse your social interactions. So you might like strike up a friendship with your boss, maybe date your boss, all in the hopes of working your way up the rungs of the social employment ladder so that you can get off of the spaceship faster. You might ditch lower-ranking friends who are starting to pester you on Spacebook. It is nasty. What I noticed from playing it with other people next to me, where we were inhabiting our separate worlds, is that it seems like people tend to play that game the same way they actually approach social media in their own lives. So I was like taking people to dinner before I would befriend them on Spacebook, and I would I don't know. I feel like my playthrough was a lot less grim and devious than it could have been. I feel like
you saw the potential there to be a lot nastier.
Pardon me. Yeah, I feel like I could have been like a much more sinister Machiavellian player. And I appreciated that I was able to outlast the game and get off of the spaceship without that.
Okay. I should check that out. I remember I read Danielle Rand. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I'm sorry, Danielle. Her review over on Polygon of that game.
You got it.
That was the that's the only thing I've read about that game, but it made it sound really interesting. So I still need to check that out.
It's fun, if barely. It's a lot of plate spinning your friendships. If you start dedicating yourself to a lot of quiet time, which I wrote on Twitter last night or 2 nights ago, I needed to dedicate myself to quiet time in order to achieve sort of a win state. My Spacebook friends felt neglected. Right. So, and it's like real life enough in that way. And sorry, I was petting my dog and lost my thought. That's all it takes. It's a really fascinating game.
Okay.
It's engaging. It is fun. Somebody said to me, "But is it fun?" And I joked, "Well, we as game critics try to avoid words and concepts like fun." But yeah, it is fun. It's a lot of fun. But it's fun even as it induces this horrible anxiety that comes of, I call it stove checking your Facebook wall. And maybe you're like deleting things from people who don't like you anymore in an effort to preserve your reputation. So you do have to like check on, and you have to constantly check this inbox and kind of prioritize who you're going to reply to. And is that person getting enough mad at me? Like maybe I should reply to them now and kind of handle this floundering friendship with this person, or maybe what I need is fewer friends. And so it's a sim, it's a relationship sim, where you're managing all of these weird. Oh God, and it's really ugly, is what it is. Like,
can I play their version of Facebook the way I play actual Facebook, which is have hundreds of friends and then only use it to poke the same 4 people every day?
I feel yes.
Okay.
Because that is essentially what I was doing, and it was really funny to me because I don't use Facebook anymore. And I like using Twitter. I know there are a lot of people who use Facebook solely and avoid Twitter, and I think that's fair. I think I appreciate people who don't. That's another thing. Somebody asked me if the game neatly straddled the introvert-extrovert divide.
Mm-hmm.
I think Twitter is very much an extrovert broadcasting platform. And sometimes I do feel extroverted. And I avoid Facebook. I avoid intimacy is what I'm saying. But no, and
Tell
I
us
thought,
more, Jen. Keep going.
But no, and somebody asked me, and I agreed, yes, that was a thing that I felt while I was playing the game, was that it neatly straddled that divide and accounted for the fact that, yeah, people are of both stripes, and you need to account for all your friends, sort of a thing. It's a very stressful game. Who wants to account for all their friends? It's a horror. I
mean,
really
I certainly
recommend
don't want to do that in
playing
real
it.
life, so.
Absolutely not. So.
But it does seem like it's possible if if you carry yourself a certain way on, a social platform like Facebook, games like that are an opportunity to, act completely contrary to how you do act in real life, to get a sense of maybe how that might play out if, the simulation is, remotely accurate or interesting when prodded that way. But, it can provide a way to see, well, what if I handled stuff this way in the future, and kind of see how that works.
It's really fascinating. I think it's a lot more complicated than it feels at first blush, and I think it would be, yeah, an accurate simulation of, well, if I behave in this way, what would come of that? No, absolutely. It's I think every bit as complicated or as complex as like a football sim.
Yeah.
But with
Very
Facebook,
cool.
it's really upsetting. And it's funny. It's upsetting, and it's funny, and it's engaging. I would call it fun.
All right.
Upsetting funny is generally my kind of funny, so I will definitely check that out.
You'll love it. You'll love
Okay.
it.
I'm in.
All right. Well, before we close out the show, one of the big pieces of news that came out this morning that I want to make sure we mentioned and briefly got some of our takes on it is that Microsoft has formally acquired the Gears of War IP from Epic Games. Now there's a new Gears of War game being made at Black Tusk. There was a teaser trailer for a Black Tusk game shown last year at E3 that I actually just think Phil Spencer is lying when he says that wasn't a game, and my guess is once they acquired Gears of War, they just decided to assign Black Tusk to making that game. Otherwise, what have those guys been doing for all this time? Rod Ferguson, who was the lead producer on that game over at Epic, went over to 2K to form a studio there, and then if you believe some of the rumors that were coming out, Superannuation on Twitter, who is extremely reliable when he chooses to talk about some of this stuff. He had sort of deduced that Rod Ferguson was probably working on Mafia 3, and I feel like Rod probably looked at that and went, I can do better, and so now he's up in, I think, Vancouver or Toronto, I'm not sure, they're in Canada, working on a brand new Gears of War game that it sounds like it's probably pretty early, that we're not going to see this game for a little while yet, but Alex, I'm curious what you...
How many Gears of War games we've gotten recently.
Yeah. So, what do you think? Like, do you have sort of a gut check response to this, Alex?
For me, it's two things. One, Microsoft buying Gears of War makes the most sense because that is one of their main franchises, and it wasn't even something that they, I mean, obviously they owned the rights to the franchise, but they still had to work with Epic on that stuff, so just taking that out of the equation makes a degree of sense. I think the bigger and more interesting thing is, okay, well, there was all this to-do made about Rob Ferguson, going to 2K and sort of being this, closer kind of guy, the sort of person who can help get games shipped and out the damn door. for him to bolt this soon after that relationship was formed leads me to believe that that is a bigger issue at 2K perhaps than even he had realized going in. Him going to work on Gears of War is not that surprising or crazy or insane in any particular way. It's like, okay, yeah, that's a franchise he's familiar with, and now he can kind of go oversee that under the umbrella of Microsoft. Just the idea of they were going to give him his own damn studio. Basically, they gave him his own damn studio in Marin, and now he's just like, nah, I'm out. And that's kind of crazy when you think about it. That someone just gave this dude a studio, and suddenly he's like, nah, I'm good, I'm out.
I mean, but if we choose to believe some of the rumors that were floating around and take them as fact, like if you think of it as, oh, here's your own studio, go make your own new IP, and then we'd like you to make Mafia 3. That's
well, fellas.
Yes, Jen.
It's not Jazz Jackrabbit anymore.
That's fair.
No, that literally did not mean anything. I just thought that would be fun to say. But
it's true. It's true.
But am I misremembering Cliffy B?
Yep.
Yes.
He already flew the coop, right?
Oh,
yeah. Epic.
So
one of the things with Epic has been whether they're how much are they going to continue to be a game maker since they had huge interest from the Chinese outfit that acquired like a 40% stake in their company. One of the thoughts has been that Epic is going to get out of game making, which is why you saw a big talent exodus when there was kind of a big payday for Epic after Gears of War 3 shipped. Exactly.
I mean, regardless, when the auteur, the face of your successful franchise, heads out, I see why maybe you would put a successful franchise into, maybe from your perspective, abler hands, right, than the people remaining at your studio. And I mean, I hope that I would work, if I worked at a studio, I would hope that it would stay in the studio and someone would be like, these hands also able. But I mean, no, it makes sense that you would just hand it over to Microsoft. That makes sense. So
yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think it makes sense for Microsoft to acquire that, but also, I certainly would like to see more new ideas from them with the new generation. Maybe that will still happen. But more Halo games, more Gears games makes financial sense, but is tougher for me to get excited about, even if I do like both those games. And
you are such a good commentator.
Oh, thank you.
How did you do that? That was great. I go,
It comes from him spending a lot of time talking to himself playing video games on the internet.
That's simultaneously the nicest and the most insulting compliment I've ever received. Alex Navarro. And I'm going to use that to close out our show. Jen, why don't you tell folks how can they keep following your work and what you are up to if they want to learn about pizza, which I don't know how we didn't even get around to talking about, but how can folks follow you after this?
Right, I do have a pizza Tumblr. God, I forget what it's even freaking called. I'll post a link later. Really, you can follow me on Twitter. I recommend that you don't, because I'm prolific when I'm in a bad mood. But that is Jennatar, Jen with 2 N's, Atar, like Pat Benatar, .twitter.com. I do have a pizza Tumblr where I take your questions about pizza. I have fashioned myself as a bit of a pizza expert. And pardon me, I've been drinking a lot of coffee here.
What's the best way for people who want to get a lot of favorites from you on Twitter to go about that?
Oh my God, just freaking it doesn't even have to be nice. It can be mean. Just tweet at me, and if my funny bone or is about pizza or is about a movie or musician I like, I'll probably favorite it. I'm pretty fast and loose with the 5 stars on the tweets on the tweet deck.
You're a fave slinger. I get it.
I am. I'm a fave slinger. I try to be positive. So yeah, just tweet at me on Twitter. 30 favorite stars are coming your way. I love human interaction is what it is. So thank you. And
but on the internet primarily.
Yeah, and I write. Look ahead. More writing, not this year, but or this past year, but I write. Be sure to watch for that writing. And
okay.
no, I'm working on some video game stuff, which is fun. I wasn't last year. I am this year.
You're working on a book, right? That's part of that.
Oh, you're talking about Brendan.
Yeah.
And Dan Golding. How do you know about that? Yeah, I am.
A press release.
I'm working.
You were mentioned in a press release.
Was I? Yeah, I'm working on a book actually. Okay. Oh, we're talking about that.
Yeah, well, we'll plug that before we take this show out.
Yeah, watch for a book, watch video game stuff. I'm sure to write another article at some point. Yeah, it's great. I'm having the time of my life. It's great.
What's the book about? What's the book about? What game? I know it's a game, right?
I'm not ready to talk about that.
Okay.
I have
fair.
a year, Patrick.
Okay.
I don't have to know right now. What is the book about, Patrick?
I don't know.
It's going to be about this morning show. That's what it's going to be
Well,
about.
thank you, Jen. And what platforms is your book coming out on? And when can we expect to read it?
What a jerk. All e-reading platforms, I assume, and
okay.
I think that's your answer. There you are, and that's a real answer, actually.
I'll take it.
Damn it.
Perfect.
This show, man.
This show is turned.
This is wonderful.
We were just waiting for it to turn. It was just one day it had to happen. This is the one where it happened.
Fickle.
Well, Jen,
thank you for asking me. Thank you.
And,
thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on.
To see you again and talk to you and talk to Alex. This is a pleasure.
And one day, Jen, you and I will actually meet in person. It will be delightful.
Are you coming to GDC?
Probably not.
No. I'll bring a photo of Alex with me, and then we'll put him in his seat when we meet up.
I'll autograph it, Nick Cage, and it'll be really weird, and you can give it back to him for me.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. Well,
it's a weird joke.
That is. We're gonna end on your weird joke, Jen. That is what we're gonna do. We're gonna end on the weirdest possible note. Thank you so much for joining us. Truly a pleasure. We will have to have you on again sometime soon. And hopefully your PC will work next time.
Jesus, yeah.
All right,
Next
Alex. What are you working on this week? You got anything going up on the site?
Fuck, man, I don't even know. I had some stuff, but I kind of forgot about what I was even supposed to be doing. I'll go find my list and figure that out here at some point.
Okay,
I'm doing some things.
You're gonna justify your paycheck somehow.
I'll review some stuff.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna do Spelunky in half an hour. I feel really shitty about it because Chris Remo beat the hidden boss of the game, which means he had a wonderful, wonderful run today.
That's right.
Which means I am not gonna. It's gonna be bad. I'm not looking forward to it. So
make this your reckless abandon run. Just go fucking nuts. Do whatever you can.
Ugh, it's so bad. Well, it's not. I really shouldn't have come at someone who has been playing for a full year. I've only been playing for 2.5 weeks, so it was just really irresponsible on my part. But we'll be back on Friday. Alex and I will be with you again, and Jen will have you on sometime soon. And we'll see you guys all on Friday.
Howl.